Yes, thank you, Chair.
Okay, so it's 11 o'clock. Good morning once again, and welcome now to the ordinary meeting of the Douglas Shire Council being held on Tuesday, 30th of June 2020 at the Mosman Council Chambers. I hereby give notice that in accordance with Section 277E of the Local Government Regulations 2012, that the the ordinary meeting of Council will be closed to the public because of health and safety reasons associated with the public health emergency involving COVID-19. The ordinary meeting of Council will be available to view via live stream on Council's website, and it will be available for others to watch at a later time. I would like to acknowledge the Kukilanji people, who are the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I would like to pay respects to their elders, both past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to other Indigenous Australians who may be listening or watching our meeting this morning. I can see that all councillors are present still. Thank you very much. And of course, we have the staff, some of the staff here working on today's motions, and we also have our members of the press here. Thank you very much for coming. So we'll head on to the conflicts of interest. Councillors, anyone wish to declare a conflict of interest? Councillor McEwen?
Yeah, I declare that I have a conflict of interest in item 5.15, Operational Plan Initiative 2.1.4, Mosman Botanical Gardens, as defined by Section 175D of the Local Government Act 2009, as follows. I am on the Board of Directors of the Mosman Botanical Gardens, and as this is a major project for the community and is in the initial standing phase, and I'm not gaining a financial benefit, I have determined that this personal interest is not sufficient significance that will lead me to make a decision on the matter that is contrary to the public interest. I'll best perform my responsibility of serving the overall public interest of the whole of the council's area by participating in the discussion and voting on this matter. However, I acknowledge that the remaining councillors must now determine, pursuant to Section 175E of the Local Government Act 2009, whether I have a real conflict of interest in this matter or a perceived conflict of interest in this matter, and if so, whether I must leave the meeting while this matter is discussed or voted on, or I may participate in the meeting in relation to the matter, including my voting on this matter.
Thank you, Councillor McEwen. So I will now put it to a vote to the remaining councillors. Do you believe that Councillor McEwen has a conflict of interest in this item? If I can show by hands if you believe that he has a conflict of interest in this matter.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, Councillor Nolly. Anyone else believe he has a conflict of interest? Okay, so therefore, by show of hands, there is no finding that Councillor McEwen has a conflict of interest. Therefore, Councillor McEwen is able to stay in the meeting and participate and vote. I also declare that I have a conflict of interest in item 5.15 Operational Plan Initiative 2.1.3 Grant Street Dining Precinct, as defined by Section 175D of the Local Government Act 2009, as follows. I'm the part owner of 2 hairdressing businesses in Grant Street, and as this is a public area space, that the results of an outdoor green dining precinct will far outweigh the benefits to the community rather than me personally. I have determined that this personal interest is not sufficient significance that it will lead me to making a decision on the matter that is contrary to the public interest. I will best perform my responsibility of serving the overall public interest of the whole of the council's area by participating in the discussion and voting on the matter. However, I acknowledge that the remaining councillors must now determine, pursuant to Section 175E of the Local Government Act 2009, whether I have a real conflict of interest in this matter or a perceived conflict of interest in this matter, and if so, whether I must leave the meeting while the matter is discussed or voted on, or I may participate in the meeting in relation to the matter, including by voting on the matter. I'll hand over to the Deputy Mayor to take that.
Okay. I will now put it to a vote with the remaining councillors. Do councillors agree that Mayor Kerr has a conflict of interest in this item? Put to vote.
Well, I actually believe he has a material personal interest, as there can be perhaps financial gain from this item. And as the initiative was Councillor Kerr's idea, I believe there is a real material personal interest in this, not a perceived conflict of interest. So that's my belief at the moment.
I agree. Look, I think it was different. Councillor McEwen doesn't stand to gain anything financially from the decision. I think it can be perceived from Mayor Kerr's, from the public, that Mayor Kerr could be, gain financial advantage from this. So I think that'll be, I'm not sure.
Okay, on that, I will declare an interest on it in that respect, now that's been mentioned, and I will choose to leave for that item in particular. Okay. Just to make sure there is no conflict.
Can we have some clarity on what you mean? Do you mean for that
I will leave
item?
For that item in particular.
For the operational plan itself?
No, for the item 2.1.3.
So you're going to categorise every item, right?
No, just the one that's a conflict of interest for.
Can we discuss a little bit further then? Because, I don't know if we discuss it now or later on, but we have one vote
Yes.
on the operational plan.
Yes.
So if you declared any conflict of interest, beg your pardon, there's one vote. My understanding would be that you must leave the room for all discussions on that one vote, whatever's included in there, and you can't vote on that one vote, whatever that may entail. This would be my understanding. Could we have some clarity, Ms. Holden?
Yeah. What we can do is we can break out that into the operational plan except for that item, and then all councillors can debate that, and then we can have a separate motion just for that specific item to address the conflict of interest.
Is that usual for an operational plan, Mr. Stormer?
It would be the appropriate way to handle it, given that the mayor has decided to declare that conflict. So it'd be absolutely acceptable to do that. We often do that in other reports that are made up of multiple decisions. For example, our grant funding, we oftentimes break those out by item in order to deal with conflicts of interest. So it'd be a very appropriate way to handle a conflict of interest.
So I'm gathering by that when we get to that item, we'll pass a motion to split that to a separate.
Yeah, we'll have to break out two motions. One will be a motion to adopt the operational plan with the exception of, what was it, 2.1.3. And then the second motion will be to, the mayor will leave the room, and then councillors will be able to debate whether they want to accept 2.1.3. Very much like what you do with grant funding.
Okay, we'll discuss that when we get to that then. Before we do go any further though, I'd like to make a special mention before we go on. I'd like to pause for a minute to make a mention that we have a staff member who is
Just getting them.
Just getting them.
We have to manage the numbers in the room due to room limitations. So they are just waiting outside the door.
It's retiring. Here it is. So as I was saying, before we go on, I'd like to pause for a minute to make a special mention of thanks. We have a staff member today who's hanging up the boots from council life after 42 years of service with this organisation. An incredible achievement and one that he and the entire community should be immensely proud of. Mark spent his first 12 years here working in various departments before finding his work home, and must be a second home after all those years, in the water department. And with over 30 years under his belt, I've been told that he's the equivalent of Google Maps when it comes to Douglas Shire's water pipes. Mark has been an incredible asset to the water team, and his knowledge, or more so his sharing of his knowledge and mentoring, will definitely be sorely missed. On behalf of all the residents in Douglas Shire, I'd like to thank you and wish you and your family and Joan all the best for the future. Come on, Mark. I would do the shake hands, but we're not allowed to.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Thank you very much. Enjoy having you up.
Yes. Something to do.
Big photo session before we went through.
One last time. Do you want a photo, Carly?
Try to stay long for 5 minutes. Thank
Thank you very much. You're all coming in.
That wasn't ready.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, 42 years of amazing
And Mayor Kerr, I'd like to confirm that what you said about Mark being Google Maps is exactly true. As a plumber for the last 30 years, I've rung him from Port Douglas at times and said, I'm at the address, and he's told me to take 3 steps from the footpath. He's been exactly right every time. He knows where every water pipe in the shire is.
Something tells me you may get a few more phone calls.
Brenda, can you just, sorry, just looking at there, council and I could gain financially from this item, that's not, yeah, just, yeah.
This is just no.
I know, yeah, but just so, mentioned, yes, thank you.
All right. So we'll go on to the confirmation of the minutes. The minutes from the 26th of May 2020. If I could have a mover, please. Councillor Scomerson. And a seconder. Councillor McEwen. Any against the minute? Any questions about the minutes or against them? No problems. So I can put that to the. Any comments about it? Put that to the vote. Then all those in favour. And that's carried. We have the minutes from the Tuesday, the 2nd of June for a special meeting. If I could have a mover on that, please. It's all there. So Councillor Scomerson and seconded by Councillor McEwen. Anyone to speak against or any comments about? No. Put that to the vote then. All those in favour. That's carried unanimously. And the special meeting for Tuesday the 9th of June 2020, if I could have a mover on that one. Councillor Norley, and seconded Councillor Zanataro. Anyone like to speak against or any comments? All those in favour, and that's unanimous and carried. All right, I'm now going to do a procedural motion as per Standing Order 3.2. I move that the order of business be altered to bring forward an agenda item 6, the notice of motion. As this item references a notice to rescind a motion which references to an operational initiative in the Operational Plan 2021. Just for those, the 3.2 states that the order of business shall be determined by resolution of council from time to time. The order of business may be altered for a particular meeting where a councillor at the meeting passed a motion to that effect. A motion to alter the order of business may be moved without notice. So because of the this item is in the operational plan, we'd like to bring it forward to discuss that first, and then for when we get to the operational plan, it's already covered. So I shall move that. If I could have a seconder for that motion, please. Councillor McEwen. Anyone against?
Yeah.
Councillor Norley.
Absolutely.
Would you like to make any comment?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a last second sneaky thing thrown in there. not what anyone was expecting. And if you wanted to put it beforehand, you should have put it forward as a mayoral minute, not as a number 6 rescind motion and then move it on the floor of the meeting like this without any notice to councillors.
It's
So,
a
yeah.
procedural matter because
Then
it's
you
being
should have
discussed.
put a mayoral minute forward. That would have come up first, and we would have been expecting that.
Any other comments? No?
Can I just ask one thing? Can you just direct me to where we're actually discussing?
This is just a procedural motion.
Okay.
We've got the item 6, which is the rescinding of the block 83.
Oh, right, yeah.
Because that's also discussed in one of the items before it. The standing orders basically states that rescinding motions are down the bottom, but because this is involved in the top section, we just need to put this motion through so we can move it up to discuss it before we get to the other item.
Oh, right.
It's just a procedural.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so any other comments? I'll put that to the vote then. All those in favour? Councillor McEwen, Councillor Scomerson, Councillor Kerr. All those against? Councillor Nolly, Councillor Zamataro. Carried. So, 6.1. Notice to rescind motion of the meeting 11th of February 2020, item 5.9, concept plan for lot 83, SR 596 Cape Tribulation Road. I gave notice to the councillors previously that I intended on rescinding this motion. So I hereby gave notice pursuant to S262, the Local Government Regulations 2012, that the meeting held of council, or was held on the 30th of June 2020. I intend to remove the resolution of council made on the 11th of February 2020 as the following: repeal item 5.9, concept plan for lot 83 SR 596 Cape Tribulation Road, and that the council endorses the lot 83 SR 596 concept plan, the establishment of a stakeholder reference group, and undertakes community consultation. I'm happy to move that. If I can have a seconder, please. Councillor Scomerson. I'm actually quite happy to move this motion to rescind this previous motion, which will be the last step in reversing what I believe was some of the most community dividing decisions that were made by this previous council. This report is very clear in its definition of what this new council's direction is. We all live here, we all love the environment around us. We all want to play our part in protecting one of the most precious icons on the planet, which we are the guardian of. But to what extent that is to occur whilst using ratepayer funds is a hotly debated topic, one which I have all intentions of finding out through a carbon mitigation community consultation. This rescinding motion and the motion I wish to put forward following it will put this back in the hands of the community to decide. It will also give the opportunity for another organisation to be able to complete these environmental projects if they wish to take this block on. A win-win situation, as environmental projects can be completed whilst this council continues to use ratepayer money for projects that our ratepayers have made very clear that they want completed, such as roads, parks and gardens, and the economy. For this reason, I put this motion forward. If anyone would like to speak against the motion. Councillor Zamataro.
Thank you, Mayor Kirst, through you. Look, I'd like to start with talking about the history of Lot 83. It's important to understand, explains why I'm against the rescind motion. In a special council meeting held on Wednesday, the 28th of August 2019, it was resolved to purchase the block, now known as Lot 83. And I'll add that was a unanimous decision by all 5 councillors. And it was very clear in the report of the reasons we were buying this, wanting to purchase this block of land for carbon credit generation, carbon sequestration, and other ideas. It was very clear as to why we went with it. On October the 3rd, 2019, we managed to purchase a 376 hectare block north of the Daintree River. And there's always been multi-faced ideas on how it could be used, with the prime idea to expand council's environmental initiatives. The land is located on Lot 83 Cape Trib Road and was purchased for $725,000, exclusive of GST. Whilst this land is predominantly rainforest, there are cleared sections consisting of approximately 70 hectares, so I think it equates to about 90% of the block. On the 11th of February 2020, Council adopted the concept plan, With this plan, council has a unique opportunity to deliver positive environmental outcomes in partnership with the community, the environmental groups, traditional owners, local businesses and researchers through the establishment of local initiatives located here. I've been in discussion with Cooper Teo from Jabalbina, and Jabalbina are very disappointed that this block is considered going up for sale. They were looking forward to working in partnership with the Douglas Shire Council. It would have created employment for Indigenous people in the area, would have been able to promote and maintain their culture. I'd say Cooper is very disappointed that the whole organisation is they would like to continue with this partnership. And this council's always confirmed its obligation to mitigate the impacts of climate change. And the ideas presented in this concept plan will form an important part of council's action in this space. The concept plan recommends that a dedicated stakeholder reference group is established with representatives from local environmental groups, traditional owners and local businesses. It is suggested that the stakeholder reference group will be involved in designing the project initiatives, which aim to complement existing Daintree rainforest experience and leverage local expertise through partnership opportunities. Also, in addition, wider community engagement is recommended through a dedicated website, online surveys, and a public gazetting period of the draft plan prior to the final plan being recommended to council for adoption. Some of the ideas were that we achieve positive environmental outcomes. Improve water quality, for an example, promote habitat, support ketone species, open up habitat corridors and sequester carbon, provide partnership opportunities with community groups and the community, provides knowledge sharing opportunities to traditional owners, contribute to scientific research, for example, carbon sequestration and agroforestry, provide meaningful interpretation about the history of the block and project initiatives, provide a nature experience for visitors and residents, for example, tree planting. It was a great concept plan, I believe. But recently, much to councillor's surprise, and not by council administration, council advised that two conservation trusts offered to contribute financially in whole or in part to the purchase and rehabilitation of Lot 83. Apparently, a copy of this letter has been circulated since it was sent to council last year. The Mayor at the time, Queensland Trust for Nature and Rainforest Rescue all gave permission for it to be published, as there was nothing secretive about it, nor any reason for confidentiality. Yet we have been given nothing, and I repeat, nothing. Now that councillors have via other means received the letter, I see that the letter says the contribution would be on the understanding this is part of a revolving fund to replicate the Lot 83 acquisition at other appropriate sites in Douglas and possibly elsewhere. I think that's an important point. This would mean council could continue buying and owning land that could be restored, reforested, for instance, while at the same time supplying carbon credits to council and interested tourism operators wanting to offset their carbon emissions at no further cost to council. That's an important fact. The offer would have enabled the council to still use part of Lot 83 for the ancillary uses proposed in the concept plan for the block. Besides offsetting its carbon emissions, it can be used to restore high-value ecosystems, and council can recover its investment with the eventuality of actually providing a revenue stream and welcome relief to the ratepayers of Douglas. A seemingly incredible offer, so why haven't we been told about this? Now today, councillors were given a rescind motion to this great concept plan. The rescind motion is contradictory in its wording and also gives no real reason as to why the Mayor wants to do this. Once again, as councillors, we have been asking to be involved in this, and we have been pushed aside as inconsequential.
You're up to 5.5 minutes, Councillor Zamataro, just so you know.
On the weekend, we received an email saying that the Mayor has a meeting tomorrow with QTFN and Rainforest Rescue to discuss the sale. I think that's a little premature on the decision, and the Mayor is preempting the result, as well as having no intention of telling council about this meeting. Transparency, goodbye, I think. The second part of the rescind motion states the process must follow compliance to Council Policy Number 22, Strategic Freehold Land, General Policy and Local Government Regulations 2012. This is a deliberate addition to circumnavigate selling the land to specifically QTFN or rainforest rescue. Councillor Nolly has already provided administration via an email with all councillors CC'd in with legislation details that any sale does not have to go to open tender. It appears that this information has been ignored. So I reject this rescind motion. Reject this rescind motion. Let the concept plan task force do its job. As the report stated, let the Daintree River Crossing community consultation start and finish. Let the community consultation on carbon footprint start and finish. When all this is finished and collated, then decide what to do with the land. And by the way, invite councillors to have a deputation to QTFN and Rainforest Rescue. All councillors, not just the Mayor and the CEO. Thank you, Mayor Kirk.
Thank you, Councillor Zamataro. Just a couple of points there. Cooper and I have had numerous conversations, and I'm more than happy to discuss any of them with him because he hasn't mentioned it to me. So that's the first I've heard of it. So he can come and discuss it with me. I'm more than happy to.
He hasn't mentioned you, did you say?
No.
Sorry?
With us, perhaps.
So a lot of the points you make are quite valid, and I look forward to them coming through in the community consultation that comes up to find out that it is what the community actually wants us to do with their money, and that's the whole purpose of this.
Yes.
The workshops, we have had workshops where things were discussed regarding QTFN and the revolving land purchase. Councillor Noel, you actually mentioned it at a meeting a couple of weeks ago.
I reject that we have discussed
No,
this,
you haven't.
Mayor Kerr. We were
Can I
told...
finish, please, at the moment,
Okay,
Councillor Noel?
sorry.
Okay. There is no meeting regarding the sale of the land with QTFN. Out of courtesy, I asked the CEO to organise a meeting with him so that we can just talk, introduce each other and meet each other, which hasn't happened as yet because of all this going on, which I felt was an appropriate thing to do. So, and as far as the open tender goes, I've made it very clear in this report, and I've also made it very clear publicly that I do not want this block of land sold to just anybody. The comment was that if this block of land comes to a suitable person, who is willing to still do these initiatives, albeit that is great, because I'm not using the ratepayers' money at the moment to do these things until the ratepayers say that that is what they want. That is it. Councillor Noel, you wish to say something against the motion?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Zamataro. It's a hard act to follow because you've included so much information there. Look, I find the two suggestions a little bit contradictory, actually. I really don't have too much problem with your first point, that no further action occurs on the land to the completion of the danger-free consultation. I'm okay with that. What I have is a problem with the second point. Why? The concept plan, the task force is a good thing. And if we go ahead with that, we will find out what the community wants, guys. This is what we're looking at. If we go ahead with that task force, that suggestion from the council resolution, it was a lawful council resolution, we will find out what it wants. If the community wants to sell the land, then we do that. But we might not find that out for 6 months' time, whatever. My suggestion, allow number one, get rid of point number two, because that for me is a real alarm bell. Take it out. If we want to go to that in the future, then we can bring up in our meeting later on. It's a very reasonable suggestion. After all the information that Councillor Zamataro has given us, it's a very reasonable suggestion. Just get rid of that number two, go with one, go with the council resolution of 11th of February, and should we come to it, we'll bring it up in 6 months' time, 7 months' time, or never. It might be a never. So that is my suggestion about this.
Thank you, Councillor Nolly. And just in regards to that, this is a case of the horse before the cart. You can't make a decision of what you're going to do, then go to public consultation. We did workshops, which was basically we sat there and we were told this is going to happen because it's the right thing to do. That is not consultation. Consultation is when you actually ask the public how much they want, do they understand mitigation, do they want us to do it with their money.
Beg your pardon, Mayor. Point two is putting the cart before the horse because we haven't had that task force. That task force will bring it all out.
And if anyone does come forward it will be a resolution that will need to be brought to council in the purpose to sell it.
At that point, don't put it in there until you get to that point.
Well, I'm more than happy to have it in there.
It's a nice process, it's a step by step, otherwise we're jumping all around it like rabbits.
Anyone else like to comment on it?
Well, you know, I'll comment on it because this is a big bear bug to me, this block of land, and majority of ratepayers in this shire will support me on this. This was something, I'll rephrase that, with majority of ratepayers we've not concerned about purchase of this block of land. And I think that there should be an investigation done on why this block of land was purchased. When you look at the concept plan, we have all these environmental groups that are in here. How many of them are actually in the Douglas Shire? How do they benefit from using this block of land? How does the ratepayer benefit from this land? We talk about carbon credits, but it's a long-term thing. I think it's appalling that this has been done behind the ratepayer's back. Same as what the carbon credit fiasco was. This block of land should be put on hold until we go to consultation and talk to ratepayers of this shire. If we decide to sell this block of land, I'll make this quite clear. This does not get sold under what we purchased for. So if we have to sit on this block of land for the next 20 years, so be it. Because this is an absolute disgrace. And everyone should be ashamed of themselves that who actually voted for this, because this is abuse of ratepayers' money purchasing this block of land. And these groups, what benefit? I'd like to know what benefit people in these organisations are going to get out from the ratepayers' money that's being spent on this block of land. So we either come up with some really good suggestions on how we can utilise this block of land for the benefit of the ratepayers of this shire.
So may I ask then, and I agree, let's work it, let's work it out.
Through the chair, please. You can ask a question through the chair.
Through the chair. May I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Thank you. So you would like to, if I understand, look at if there's a possible benefit utilising this land. You'd like to explore if there's a possibility.
We have to look at the possibilities of what benefits the ratepayers will get out of this block of land. Because at the moment, there's nothing. And when you look at the concept plan, I can't see anything.
Can I just keep the motion going here? This is purely just to rescind this motion.
Yeah.
And the next section is to move the other things.
Yeah.
Okay. So
that's my views on it.
if Councillor McEwen, have you any comments regarding the first section?
Yeah, listen, I support the motion. The reasons are that the purchase of this land has been very controversial. Every second person that I talk to bring up the block of land, lot 83. There was no consultation. And I also believe that there is a connection with the ferry concepts that this land needs to be considered with. So, listen, I was devastated when I heard that this had been purchased behind everyone's back, as most people have been. I think it should be taken out to consultation and the people given their chance to have a say. And in relation to the point 2, I think the wording there is test the market. You know, it's not going to be sold without coming through here, so I have no problems with that.
Okay. So the motion that we're putting at the moment is to rescind the original motion. If there's no other comments, I'll put that to the vote, please. All those in favour? Councillor McEwen, Councillor Scomerton, Councillor Kerr. All those against? Councillor Nolly, Councillor Zamatara. The motion is passed. So we'll now move on to the motion to move. That no further action occurs on the land until the completion of the Daintree Ferry consultation and the Council Community Carbon Position consultation, both of which are proposed actions in the 2021 operational plan, which is coming forward. Point 2 is that Council approved the CEO to test the market for the sale of land with the intent of selling it to an appropriate buyer comes along. The process must follow compliance to Council Policy Number 22, Strategic Freehold Land, General Policy and Local Government Regulations 2012. So I will happily move that if I can have a seconder, please. Councillor Scomerton. For the reasons I've already spoken about, I'm just going to put it to the against. If anyone else has any against comments for that one. Councillor Nolly.
Amendment that we exclude point 2.
I'll second that.
Okay, Councillor Nolly has put through an amendment that we take out point 2. It has been seconded by Councillor Zamataro. All those in favour? Councillor Nolly, Councillor Zamataro. All those against? Councillor McEwen, Councillor Scommers and Councillor Kerr. The motion's failed. So we'll go back to the motion that's at hand. Just let Brenda catch up. So the motion reads as is. All those in favour? Councillor McEwen, Councillor Scommers and Councillor Kerr. All those against? Councillor Nolly, Councillor Zamataro. Motion's carried. Right, that takes us back to the agenda items. We have 5.1 first of all, the request for a minor change to development approvals in Wymble Road. That council approves the request for a minor change to boundary alignment developments approvals, SUP 2018-2941 and ROL 20193071, overland described as lots 4, 5 and 6 on RP 851512 and lot 10 on RP 748614, subject to the following changes and conditions as it's read in the document. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Nolly. Seconder? Councillor Scomerton. Councillor Nolly, would you like to talk to the motion?
Thank you. I don't think it's necessary.
Anyone against the motion? Any comments from councillors? Mr. Lamond, is there anything you wish to add to it?
Mayor, no.
Thank you.
Quite basic.
With that, we'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? And that's unanimous. Motion's carried. Okay, 5.2, a request for funding from Port Shorts Film Festival. The recommendation is the council resolves to increase funding for the Port Shorts Film Festival from $15,000 to $20,000 for the life of the current triennial agreement expiring in October 21. Provide one-off funding of $9,000 in 2020-21 for a live broadcast of the event, and 3, delegates authority under Section 257 of the Local Government Act 2009 to the Chief Executive Officer to finalise any minor amendments in relation to the funding Port Shorts Film Festival. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor McEwen. And a seconder? Councillor Scomerton. Councillor McEwen, would you like to say anything to that since you moved it?
Just with all the information that's there, I think it's a great marketing chance that we have, advertising in the region, especially with what's happening. And it's in conjunction with the TPDD, and I just believe it's a good move.
Thank you. Anyone against the motion?
I have some questions. Thank you.
So no one against that. Yeah, any other questions then, Councillor Nolly?
Yeah. Now, love Port Shorts. The organisers know this, and they know they have my support. But there are a few things in here that raise some questions. It says on the 15th of June in the report there, I'm not sure the page. On the 15th of June, Port Shorts management met with the Mayor, the CEO and council staff requesting an increase in funding from council. This I find a little concerning. We then get a report that we haven't been a part of the meetings initially. It also goes on to say that the initial funding for the resource and performance agreement has been budgeted for the 2021 year. However, the proposed increase will need to be sourced. Now, so there's a recommendation to fund it, but we have not been given any solution of where that extra funding is coming from. I would like to be able to vote in favour of this, but I really would like to defer it so that the elected members can have a little bit more information about where the funding is coming from, what the resource agreements are, and that type of thing, because we're the guys that have to take the brunt of the budget considerations. And from the understanding of reading the report, 1 month deferment would probably would make a difference. So I'd like a deferment, we can have a workshop, talk about it, get some more information, and then bring it to the next meeting.
If I can just answer from my point of view, Mr McLean came in and saw us, and this is actually an urgent matter. If they don't get this funding, they won't go ahead with it because the network needs to actually get an agreement, and that's why it's been put through.
Well, then I think we perhaps should have had a workshop where we were informed about it. You know, once again, we have, as the elected members, controlling and take the brunt of the budget, and yet we don't get told about these things, and this is a concern.
Well,
I
Councillor,
love Port Shores, no problems. And
Councillor Nolly,
yes.
the report's in front of you. It's got all the details on it. Okay.
Not where the funding's going.
You can either choose to say yes to it or no to it. It's that simple.
Excuse me, Mayor, through the Mayor, staff, do you have any suggestions where the funding might be coming from? The extra funding?
Through the chair, as part of the community development budget, we'll be able to source this budget through the sponsorship program.
Okay. Any other questions against the motion?
Through you, Mayor. Look, I'm a little concerned that in normal procedures being in these sort of situations to have deputations with the companies involved, and we haven't had any of that for this. That's why I'm a bit concerned about it. I'd like to know more about it. That's why I was agreeing to the deferral. We'd like to see it deferred until we even have a deputation. I mean, I've spoken to the Mayor, the CEO and council staff. Councillors haven't been involved in this at all, so I would have liked to see at least a deputation so we could, and I'm not, like I said, Port Shores is an important event for the Douglas Shire, but I would have liked to see at least a deputation. It's been normal procedure in the past, and wondering why council input is not being regarded.
Well, in response to that, it's been a time restraint. And I think it's extremely important that, especially the one-off funding for the $9,000 for a live broadcast, to have an hour show live from Port Douglas. You can't pay for that advertising. And with the host of it being the gentleman who usually comes up and hosts the show, it's a name as well. And it says TPDD are also heavily on board with this. I think it's a great initiative.
No problem with the initiative.
No problems at all.
So, any other comments from councillors?
No.
Then I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. .3 Cape York Tenure Resolution Program requests for the view on Daintree National Park tenure actions. The recommendation is that Council advises the Cape York Peninsula Resolution Program, the CYPTRP, on the objection to proposed tenure actions, see on the attachments, including road closures 8, 10 and 11, and the unallocated state land on lot 63, RP 898391, on the basis that these proposed tenure actions have current or future use by Council. Advises the CYPTRP that Council has no objections to proposed tenure actions not mentioned above, on the basis that these proposed tenure actions have no current or no foreseeable use for Council. And 3, delegates authority under Section 257 of the Local Government Act 2009 to the Chief Executive Officer to progress all matters associated with these discussions. If I can have a mover on that, please. Councillor Zamataro. Seconder. Councillor Scomerson. Councillor Zamataro, would you like to make any comments?
Oh, thank you, Mayor Kerr. Oh, look, I'd just like to say that we've discussed this at length with the officers, and it's through a workshop, so it was quite easy to make a decision on this. It's been explained fully, the reasoning behind the officers' report.
Anyone against the motion? Any other comments by councillors? No. Any further comments by staff?
Yeah.
No, thank you.
All right, we'll put that to the vote then. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. .4 Relinquishment of joint trusteeship between Douglas Shire Council and Jababina Yalanji Aboriginal Corporation, Lot 900 SP 238233 Blue Balls. The recommendation is that Council advise the Department of Natural Resources, Mines and Energies that Council wishes to relinquish joint trusteeship of Lot 900 SP 238233 and hand over to Jalabinda Yalanji Aboriginal Corporation as the prescribed body corporate for the traditional owners as sole trustees. And point 2, delegates authority under section 257 of the Local Government Act 2009 to the Chief Executive Officer to execute any documents required for the completion of this transaction. If I could have a move, please. Councillor Nolly. And a seconder. Councillor Zamataro. Councillor Nolly, since you moved this, would you like to speak to it?
Yes, thank you. Wow, this has been a long time coming, longer for some than others, I suppose. This was one of the things that was brought to me at the de-amalgamation election year back in 2014, and it's something that the council, has actively worked its way through, obviously with the help of staff and other outside people. So it's good to finally come to this council resolution, this recommendation. I have been very privileged to have been part of it, and I have really enjoyed working with the traditional owners, trying to come up with the best possible solution. So I'm glad to be able to move this recommendation today.
Thank you, Councillor Nolly. Anyone wish to speak against the motion? No. Any comments from other councillors?
Yeah, Nick, I'd just like to say, I understand that's a very long-going process, and since it's an agenda, I've had to do a lot of research, and I'm happy to go with the motion, but just probably for Lisa and myself, some things that are coming up from the past that may not have been mentioned, maybe it's appropriate to give us a little bit of extra information or provide some if required.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Thoroughly agree. If there's no further comments, we'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that's unanimous, carried. All right. 5.5, Douglas Chamber of Commerce Resource and Performance Agreement. The Council resolves to contract the Douglas Chamber of Commerce as a specialised service provider under S235-B of the Local Government Regulations 2012 for specialist business support with funding of $50,000 GST exclusive under terms set out in a resource and performance agreement for the period of 1 year dated from 1st July 2020 to June 30, 2021. That notes that council staff will develop KPIs for the allocated funding that will focus on strong support of small businesses in the community and supporting economic growth in the Shire. And 3, delegates authority under section 257 of the Local Government Act 2009 to the Chief Executive Officer to finalise any minor amendments and execute the resource performance agreement. So I'm happy to move this one. If I can have a seconder, please.
Have to second it to
Get it on the floor. Yes, Councillor McEwen. I'll just start off with, I believe that this is a resource and performance agreement that's long overdue. For as long as I can remember, the ability for this chamber to be able to contribute appropriately has been restricted by lack of funds. The chamber has the ability to assist in our tourism transactions. Whilst one body gets the tourists here, the chamber has the ability to assist, helping our businesses to be ready to service these tourists appropriately to the standards needed to ensure that they return. A body that has the ability to unite businesses in the Shire with information, training, advice is paramount to rebuild Douglas post-COVID-19. And as such, I highly recommend for councillors to support this motion. I think that the chamber will be able to do a lot with these funds as far as assisting our local businesses, especially in training, in information, and it's something that hasn't been able to be achieved due to lack of funds. So I'm putting this motion forward. If anyone would like to speak against, first of all.
Well, about to say something.
So if no one wishes to speak against, then we'll go for comments after that. Okay, so no one speak against, now we'll open the floor for conversation and comments. So I think Councillor McEwen, you pointed out first that you want to talk about this.
Yeah, sure. Now, I understand the importance of the Chamber of Commerce, and I understand the need to fund them. The only concern I have, and I have been involved with the Chamber of Commerce over the years, not in the last 5 or 6, but I think we really need to have the KPIs put in place very strictly. I mean, the Chamber's always been a very small group of people. It hasn't had a lot of support. In giving them some funding, I think it's very imperative that somehow they're made responsible to increase the number of people that will benefit from this, because we don't want to fund them and then just the same old 10 people that they're the only ones that want to come along and do the sessions. Somehow we have to put in there that the membership must be, you know, greatly increased. I'm sure there's businesses in Port Douglas that will jump on board with all the training, but I just want to see that somehow we make them sort of accountable to get out there and get lots of businesses on board, and also have a regular update as to the numbers, the progress, and I'm sure it probably would be in the KPI there somewhere, but I think it's imperative that if we're going to give them 50 grand, we have to see that the business people in Mossman and Port Douglas and Cape Trip and Wingeti all the opportunity if they wish to benefit from it, and not just a small select group.
No, absolutely. I totally agree with you, Councillor McEwen. And I do believe they're on the same part payment. They don't get the whole lot up at once.
Through the chair, as part of their funding conditions that we will put on the parameters of this funding will be to make sure that they develop some KPIs in consultation with us to get that approved. There will be monthly reporting and also quarterly releases of the payment, so it's not all in one lump sum. Through that quarterly reporting, we can then present it to council on a quarterly basis.
And just a question, if I can, through the chair, and if we're not happy with the results on the quarterly reporting or monthly, how can we address that?
Yeah, through the chair, as part of the quarterly report and releases, if they're not, we're not satisfied with the KPIs and achieving those KPIs every quarter, we can then obviously hold payment or defer or cease payment.
I think it's extremely important that we give them this opportunity. I mean, it proved last year when we had the big conference they held down in Port Douglas that they got great business support from it. And that alone, I think we ended up $13,000, somewhere around there was, you know, I think it's in the report that we did, yeah, around $13,000. Yeah, so 50,000 is not going to go far, you know, but at least it gives them the opportunity to be able to prove themselves worthwhile and actually, you know, I really want them to do something with all the businesses, Mossman included, not just Port Douglas, you know, and they need to have drivers to be able to do that. So, any other comments?
Yeah, I'll just have one.
Sorry, Councillor Nolly was just in
No,
first.
you're right. Okay. Yeah, I support giving them funding, but I believe that council needs to develop strict KPIs for. And I'd also like to see if they have a business model or plan in place of how they will use that $50,000 and which direction they want to go. And the other question I'd like to know, we've got in here that they offered free membership to support local businesses during the COVID-19. I'd like to know how many businesses have actually taken that offer up to see if they are growing compared to what they are at the moment. So it would be interesting to see if any businesses jumped on board with free membership.
I know too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just, again, it's building up confidence in the businesses as well that the Chamber is there to do things for them. You know, I think the more the Chamber does, the more businesses will jump on board to assist them. That's the plan. So, Councillor Knowles.
Thank you. It's interesting because both Councillor McEwen and Councillor Sconazon have started the conversation that I wanted to talk about, and perhaps even I would actually like to go possibly a step further, but you have both started that foundation of that conversation. Of course, I support the Chamber of Commerce, always have, but I also think we need to point out first and foremost that chambers are never funded by councils. Okay, just put that out there. But the report says that the recommendation comes from recommendations from the Economic Strategic Review Committee. So this the Strategic Review Committee is all very well and good, but we haven't seen the recommendations from that Strategic Review Committee. This committee was formed think it was late last year, a while ago anyway. There were 6 meetings, some very clever people got together. They came up with some suggestions, okay? Now, that's finished, no problems with that. What was supposed to come next was that there was going to be a workshop or an informal report, maybe an informal report to councillors. That was then going to go out to community consultation to see what the community wanted to know about, what the community had to offer about these recommendations for the Strategic Review Committee. Then it was going to come back to council for a formal resolution and adoption. So, what we have today in recommendation is from a recommendation from this review committee that we haven't seen. Now, I think we need to take a step back, have those steps done that were on our websites, been advertised as what was going to happen. We haven't had those steps, okay? Go back, do those steps that have been suggested. Then we come back with the chamber, we sit down together, we work out, we nut out together those KPIs that you two have already spoken about. We find out the strategies of the Chamber of Commerce, we find out the objectives, how they're going to spend the money, some broad ideas of what they have. We work together and then we come back and we have a council report to give them this money or some money for whatever. I think these are the proper steps that need to be carried out first. We have the Strategic Review Committee that hasn't been finished. We need to come back to a council resolution. First of all, it has to go out to community consultation. We need to come back to council resolution. Then we go ahead with this. Just do the steps, do the processes correctly. That's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nolan. I think there's one thing I can say regarding the reasons why that's been delayed, and it's called COVID-19.
Absolutely, no problem being delayed.
And that's why these things are also coming through from a very competent body of staff members writing a report for us to sit there in front of you for you to read, to try and assist these businesses. And it is in the operational plan also to finish this whole economical study and the work group, all the rest of it. So the reports will come through to councillors with long-term goals, but short-term fixes to try and assist the businesses that are here now that need help. These are the things that we're doing.
Thank you, Mayor. I never once criticised the council staff and what they have been producing. I just want to be part of it. I just want to be involved. That's all I'm getting at.
Yes, Councillor Zamatara.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I'm just also going on with what the other councillors have mentioned. I would assume that the KPIs would have to be developed before we announce the level of funding that they would be receiving. And as far as making decisions based on what the Economic Strategic Review Committee have said, as Councillor Nolly pointed out, I think we're going putting the horse before the cart before the horse. I think we need to see these outcomes before we can make decisions. We can't be asked to make decisions based on what's happened with the Economic Strategic Review Committee. I mean, they're almost like a fictional character. I haven't received anything from them. I would like to see, I think we need to sit down as promised, that we need to sit down and see what the outcomes of these meetings were.
If there's any other comments, we'll put that to the vote then. All those in favour? Councillor McEwen, Councillor Scomerson, Councillor Kerr. All those against? Councillor Nolly, Councillor Zamataro, passed. And I'm quite sure those details absolutely be forthcoming. Right, 5.6, Tourism Port Douglas Daintree Resorts and Performance Agreement. The recommendations that Council resolves to support Tourism Port Douglas Daintree with a contract of specialist service provider for the destination marketing and management under S235B of the Local Government Regulations 2012 for the financial year of the 1st of July 2020 to 30th of June 2021, with funding of $250,000 GST exclusive and include office space to the in-kind assistance offer in the agreement. Delegate authority for the council officer represented to join Tourism Port Douglas Daintree Board of Directors in recognition of the significance of the tourism and destination marketing on economic growth. and delegate authority under Section 257 of the Local Government Act 2009 to the Chief Executive Officer to finalise any minor amendments and execute the Resource Performance Agreement, which I am more than happy to move that. If I can have a seconder, please. Councillor McEwen. Firstly, I want to thank the staff very much for this very detailed report that clearly shows why council has chosen to take this path. Clearly, what was or what wasn't working prior to COVID-19 is no longer appropriate post-COVID-19 and is more than proper that the procedures used are assessed, compared, investigated, and decisions are made by those who have all the details in front of them. Whilst we are the chosen representatives who make the final decision here in this forum, it's important that we are guided by the facts that are in front of us, not misconstrued opinions of those who have been involved in similar resource agreements 20 years ago, or on social media comments that are made to create debate rather than fact. The decision has clearly been well thought out and rationalised through numerous discussions with TPDD and TTNQ to ensure that adequate amounts of funding is secured for the current performance agreement and the current conditions that we are facing. I believe that this outcome is a balanced approach and one that the CEO and the chair of TTPD have advised me is a workable amount. When considered in a whole fit package, Council, TTPD, TTNQ, Chamber of Commerce and the newly created Tourism and Economical Development Officer are all working in harmony as one, taking this shire forward in one direction as a collective. So as such, I'm more than happy to support this motion. If anyone would like to speak against it. Councillor Zamataro.
Thank you, Mayor Kerr. Look, I have some questions. I want to know why the funding's been cut in half. And one of the issues in the report is include office space and kind. Are we talking about DPD operating on council premises? Or I'm not sure what that means. And I find this report a little hypocritical because the bulk of this report focuses on how important TPD is to the economy of Douglas Shire. Yet we're talking about virtually halving their funding. I would have thought that with the economic climate we're facing, that TPD is one of the organisations we should be supporting 100%. You know, the report indicates they're experts in their field, and if anyone can increase visitor numbers, it's TPPD. Council just made a decision to fund Chamber of Commerce to the tune of $50,000. Without TPD to help, Chamber of Commerce is virtually non-existent. They need TPD to get the people here. We're a community that relies heavily on tourism to survive. So without the full support of TPDD, businesses are at risk of going under. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Zamataro. Anyone else like to comment on the motion? Councillor Nolan.
Thank you. Well, I personally am of the belief that this reduced funding for TPDD will be the first step in the death knell of tourism in Douglas. Simply that. It is noted in the first paragraph of the report there's an agreement until August, which I find interesting because really tomorrow they should cease to exist. You know, that's what I would have thought. So despite my request for information, something has happened that has got to continue with the agreement until August. Now I find that very interesting. I think we need to go back to the beginning of the TPDD contract cycle, probably 3.5 years ago. Council, and I use that word as the collective noun, so that means councillors, had many hours and much input into the parameters around the contract, the CPIs, the KPIs, beg your pardon, the outcomes desired, what marketing areas or demographics would be targeted and why. It was through a thorough process which wasn't random. It was strategic and developed by knowledgeable, qualified people through a holistic approach. So the strategic framework and the organisational plan for the marketing strategy was a professionally done group effort with input from councillors and accepted by councillors for a council resolution. On 1st of August 2017, it was moved by Councillor Carey and seconded by Councillor Kerr and carried unanimously. That's the background of the council's participation in the past. So now we've been offered a done deal, of which councillors have had no part. So what information has been omitted to get us to this point of this recommendation? I don't know. TPD in the past has always delivered for Douglas. In the last report presented to TPD to the council, the report highlights a difficult year because of weather events and coral bleaching stories that ran rampant, and yet there were still successes brought on by the organisation. One thing of particular note, council funded TPD just under $500,000 a year, but the annual tourism expenditure generated because of TPD's existence is estimated up to $520 million, not a return for the dollar. This reduced funding can only mean a reduced tourism influx into the area. Do not accept it. I actually would like to move another resolution that we bring our funding back to the in line with the current contract and continue it for 3 years, actually.
So are you moving
An
a motion?
alternative motion.
So you're moving a motion as
Yes.
read, except for funding of 500,000 instead of
Yes,
250?
I'll read it out if you like. The council resolves to support tourism for Douglas Daintree with funding of what was last year, $488,404.59 is what it was in the annual report. Applying an annual indexation of 1.5% per year for a term of 3 years with a resource and performance agreement dated dated 1st of July 2020 to 30th of June 23.
So,
1st of July to the 30th of June 2023. So a 3-year contract. And then as it is basically.
Indices, isn't it?
Indexation.
Indexation.
Yeah. DEX. ATIL.
Okay, so Councillor Nolly has moved an amendment. A seconder, Councillor Zamataro. I'm just waiting for Brenda to catch up. All those in favour of that motion? Councillor Nolly, Councillor Zamataro. Those against? Councillor McEwen, Councillor Scomerson, Councillor Kerr. Motion has failed. So it takes us back to the original motion. And just in comment that TPDD also needs the chamber. It's one thing to get the tourists here, but if they don't enjoy themselves when they're here, they don't come back. So it's really important that our businesses, when they're here, also, enjoy the time that they've got here and they're serviced appropriately. So it's a two-way street, and that's why I think it's extremely important that council, TPDD, and chamber are all working together in one direction to get us out of COVID-19. So with that, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour of the motion? Councillor McEwen, Councillor Scomerson, Councillor Kerr. All those against? Councillor Zamataro, Councillor Nolly.
I voted for. So I want
For,
to have
sorry.
something, yeah, at least something.
My apologies. So Councillor Nolly voted for as well. Okay, let's keep moving on. 5.7. Gifting of the Ballyhooly Steam Railway. Recommendation is the council resolves to note that the owner has recently approached council with the proposal to gift the asset of the Ballyhooly Steam Railway to council. invite the Ballyholly Steam Railway owner to enter into discussions with relevant council officers to discuss this proposal, and note that council officers will provide a future council report describing the details of the proposal and recommendations about the Ballyholly Steam Railway assets, and delegate authority under Section 257 of the Local Government Act 2009 to the Chief Executive Officer to determine and finalise any and all matters associated with this report. Can I have a mover for this, please? Councillor Scomerson. And a seconder? Councillor McEwen. Councillor Scomerson, would you like to say anything towards this?
I think this is a great gift that's been given to the ratepayers of the Shire, because it's going to be a great little tourist attraction for the Shire, and it's been around for a very long time, and it'd be hard to see this no longer existing if we don't take up this great offer.
Anyone wish to speak against the motion? Councillor Samataro.
Through you, Mayor Kerr, thank you. Look, I've done a bit of homework on this issue. This Ballyholly has been offered to a few other organisations who have politely declined. It's not going to be a financial asset to ratepayers. It's going to be a financial burden. There's a lot of finance involved in financing one of these operations. There's maintenance on the tracks. There's maintenance on the engines that needs quite a bit of work. We're looking at public liabilities, and we're not cutting sugarcane in these trains, we're cutting people. I think it's a bad move for council to get involved in this sort of operation. It doesn't make money, it never has. It hasn't for a long time. And then we're talking about staffing it, which is at least I think you need a fireman, a driver, and because you have people on board, I would suggest you need a guard on each carriage. I don't see council should be getting involved in private enterprise. I don't think this is an asset to council at all. It's going to cost ratepayers a lot of money to keep this thing going, and that's. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from councillors?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I assume we're just having a look at the feasibility of it, aren't we? So we're not actually making the decision to take the train on. It's an internal cost. Yeah, I don't see any problem with having a look at it. I'd be surprised if it's stacked up, but I don't know a lot of details about it. Just see it running around. So I'm happy for the staff to have a look and bring something to us, but it's got to be able to make money and not burden the ratepayer. And everything has to be looked at in relation to that, every section. So to have a look at it at a later date, I'm happy for the council to bring it back to us.
Thank you. Councillor Norley, you want to say something?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Councillor McEwen. Look, I think you perhaps hit on a really important point there, that everything has to be looked at. I'll explain. Look, I honestly do not think it will stack up as well, but okay, we can see. I've had a couple of people approach me over the weekend quite anxious about this, because it's a bit of an explanation. These people in the know said that, in particular, the train engine itself, and I'll use my layman terms, has to have a very specialised, certified person to check out its safety. Because apparently the boiler, the stays, I'm not even 100% sure what they are, we can't just have our guys go down and say, well, there's no rust, so it's all good. Okay, so it has to be done by someone from the National Railway Authority Safety Board or something like that. The other bit of information I was given, along with the train, there is also the flanges, the undercarriage, the turntable, a whole heap of different things that have to be audited by a certified person. So it can't just, you can't just send our guys down. Because if our guys go down, there's nothing against our team, but they have to be certified, that things may get missed. And the person who, in particular, people who are telling me about this, they think, in their opinion, this is an accident waiting to happen, that might not get picked up if not the proper authority. Apparently, the proper authority to do this type of job is quite expensive, tens of thousands of dollars to do this type of checking. So, This is a concern for me. If this stacks up, that it's a good thing for the rate, I don't have a problem. But just to get us to that point is apparently a very expensive business. Tens of thousands of dollars, I was told. Now, I have no want to get in the way of an investigation. I'm very happy for the investigation. So I'm making a suggestion that perhaps we request the current owner to take on those costs and get the proper auditing done, engineering certificates done, whatever, and not the ratepayer of Douglas. And then when he has that done or she has that done, come back to us with all the certificates in place, with all the safety standards in place, and then we can work out what work, whatever needs to be done to bring it up to par. So my suggestion was that if we're going to look into this further, we ask the current owner to take on those costs. Not council, not the ratepayers.
From my personal perspective, not only does the Ballyhooly service a great tourism asset, it's an absolute historical piece for this region. The last working piece of this railway is a reminder of the incredible working township Port Douglas once was for sugar, being transported by this very rail to the dock to be shipped off to its destination. It was a decision to start sending the sugar to Cairns via road that started the downward spiral of the population of Port Douglas back then. At its lowest, they said it was around 60 people were living here. This historical piece of Port Douglas, and for Douglas for that matter, I believe is an asset that we should not lose. And if the staff, through a due diligence process, can see that it's an asset worth taking on, I believe that this council should absolutely consider it. Therefore, I have no issue in supporting this current motion to allow the staff to present a report to council once an investigation has taken place. I'm not interested in what I've heard on the street. I don't know the financials of the Ballyhooly. These are all things we need factual information about. We hear lots of things as we walk around about different topics. So I think it's really important that we actually get the facts of the Ballyhooly, whether it is an asset that's worthwhile taking on. If it's not an asset, it's not an asset. But at least let the staff do the due diligence, which is what this motion is for, to at least come back to us and say yay or nay. So if there's no other comments, Councillor McEwen.
I agree with Abby that we wouldn't want to spend money, but I would imagine that the council staff would come back and say, this stacks up, but someone has to spend $50,000 to get the final, like a certificate for roadworthy. So in that point, then we would have to discuss whether it's worth spending the ratepayers' money to get to that point. But let's find out what that cost is. And
so you're kind of, sorry, through the mayor, to understand, you're asking for another step to be put into the recommendation then, to find out what the costs are, to go even further to find out if it stacks up.
Well, through the chair, just in the report that the councillors give back to us, they might go and say that railway mob's going to cost us 60 grand to get a certificate and have the train checked out.
Yes.
But we don't spend that.
No.
But it comes back as a report. Then we can decide whether, well, we're not going to spend 60 grand to see if it's roadworthy.
If I can, sorry guys.
Not spend the money, but just find out the cost.
Yeah, maybe that.
In the resolution, point 2, invite the Ballyhooly Steam Railway owner to enter into discussions with relevant council officers to discuss the details of this proposal. Now that gives the staff permission to say, we're willing to discuss it, but you need to get us the roadworthy or whatever it may be. So we can't assume these things straight off. If there's nothing in here about council spending money. Okay, if they want 50,000 to do that, then it's going to have to come back here for a resolution. It's just purely to enter discussions. Okay? So with that, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour of the motion? And that's unanimously carried. Okay. 5.8. Welcome, Mr. Tonks. Commercial water usage charge for untreated water supply. The recommendation is that council adopts the commercial untreated water usage charge for businesses that utilise untreated water supply within the Douglas Shire. If I can get a mover on this, please. Yep, Councillor Zamataro. Seconded, please. Well, yeah, Councillor Scommers just got in there. Councillor Zamataro, would you like to make any comments?
No, we've had discussions with Mr. Constable about this previously. The report's very thorough.
Thank you. Anyone like to speak against the motion? No. Any other comments from councillors? With that, we'll put it to the vote then. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. All right, 5.9, concealed leak financial assistance policy. The recommendation is the council adopts the concealed leak financial assistance policy, which is put behind it. If I can get a mover on that, please. Councillor Nolly. And I'm happy to second that one. Councillor Nolly, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you. Yes, I'm actually very happy to speak to the motion and move this. This was an initiative as written in the background there, the 1920 operational plan, and snuck in, that's great. This was an initiative that I kind of wanted, but obviously accepted by everybody. It shows good faith, I think, and also a little the willingness to assist people who have these water leaks that through no fault of their own perhaps got a little bit out of hand. So we've done our due diligence into what kind of suggestions would work and would really truly assist people, and that's come up. That's shown in the policy, and so I'm very, very happy to have this to move this and then hopefully have it accepted. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nolly. Anyone wish to speak against the motion? No? Any comments from councillors about the motion? Councillor McEwen?
I've had a couple of people who've read this in the minutes and have sort of said that they don't think we've gone far enough. They've compared it with other shires up and down the state, but I think we had a workshop on it. We all came to an agreement, and I think it's a good start. And we can always review it if we find that it's not what people would expect. But I think it's a good start anyway, and well done from when this started off.
Absolutely. Any other comments at all? Now, I'd like to thank the staff, of course, for preparing this document. As Councillor Nolly said, this was an initiative in the current operational plan. So I know that there has been a lot of work and thought that has gone into this policy. Touching on what you said, this policy is designed for Douglas. I've already had comparisons brought up, comparing it to other council regions, which in fairness, as they say, is like comparing apples and oranges when you look at the whole picture of Douglas financially and otherwise. This policy shows compassion and gives relief without throwing the burden onto other ratepayers to compensate what could well have been a lack of maintenance if it's ongoing. The policy not only has a straight stipulation to show what is available and how to achieve it, as well as giving the CEO and the finance team the ability to consider other cases on a case-by-case basis for more serious relief if required, which currently isn't the case. So I think it's a great policy for Douglas, and I absolutely think it should be moved today. So if there's no other comments, we'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. All right, 5.1, rates financial hardship policy, and the recommendation is the council adopt the rates financial hardship policy. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor McEwen. Seconder? Councillor Scommers. Councillor McEwen, would you like to speak to the motion at all?
Once again, the staff and everyone have worked very hard on this, and it's a policy that I think is going to be enacted on quite a bit. So I think we're out there helping the people get through this time, and I think they'll appreciate it.
So, any other comments from councillors? No? Okay, with that, we'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. All right, 5.11, the QAO interim management letter. The recommendation is the council notes the observations contained within the Douglas Shire Council Interim Management Report to the Mayor, observation report from the Queensland Audit Office for the 2019-20 financial year. If I could have a mover, please. Councillor Scomerson and Councillor Zamataro. Councillor Scomerson, would you like to make any comment?
Oh, no, not really. It's pretty self-explanatory.
Anyone wish to speak against the motion? No? Any comments from councillors regarding it? No? So, yeah, I'm very happy to see this in here. This is the first time that the QAO report has been put through a council meeting publicly, so it's great to see that in there, and I think it's another external control that shows the general public that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. So with that, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Right. 5.12, expense reimbursement councillors policy. The recommendation is that council adopt the revised expense reimbursement councillor policy as presented. If I could have a mover, please. Councillor Scomerson, seconded by Councillor McEwen. Councillor Scomerson, would you like to make any comments to that, please?
Oh, no, I think it's pretty, explains everything pretty well, about what a council can and claim and what they can't.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone wish to speak against the motion? No. Any other comments at all? No, that's good. So with that, we'll just put it to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. .13, information privacy policy, and the recommendation is the council adopt the information privacy policy as presented. Can I have a mover on that one, please? Councillor Nolly, seconded by Councillor McEwen. Councillor Nolly, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, that's fine.
That's fine. Anyone wish to speak against the motion? Any other comments from councillors? Okay, we'll put that to the vote then. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Right, 5.14, councillor remuneration policy. The council adopt the councillor remuneration policy as presented. I'd actually like to move this with an amended motion. I'd like to move it that council resolve not to accept the increased remuneration put forward by the Local Government Remuneration Commission for the 2020-2021 financial year. Furthermore, councillors, including the Mayor and Deputy Mayor, will continue to be paid in accordance with the remuneration schedule decided by the Commission for the 2019-2020 financial year. And point 2 is that the remuneration policy is updated to reflect a 0% increase. If I could get a move, I'm going to move that one. If I can get a seconder for that, please, Councillor Zamataro. Anyone wish to speak against that? No. Any comments from councillors? Councillor Zamataro?
Through you, Mayor Kerr, I think it's a great initiative. It was one I was going to suggest. I think it sets a good example to the community that in these times that we're not, councillors aren't accepting a pay rise. I think wouldn't have looked very good. That's money that can be used elsewhere for important things in the community.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. Any other comments from councillors? No. We'll put that one to you.
I just thought, so I'm very happy also, and would have moved the same, basically.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, so we'll put the amendment to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. So that is now the standing motion. So we need to actually put that amendment again. So I'll move that one as is now with the new motion. If I can get a seconder for that. Councillor Scomerson. And if there's any comments or questions about it as it stands, which there shouldn't be, that's all good. Okay, so we'll put that to the vote as that format. All those in favour of that motion, and that's carried unanimously. Right. And I'd just like to thank councillors for their support on that one too. I think it is absolutely imperative. 5.15, so we need to move a motion to separate, number is it? 2.1.3. So I'll move a motion to separate 2.1.3 from the operational plan. If I can get a seconder on that, please. Councillor Scomerson. Anyone wish to speak against splitting of this new motion? All right. Anyone wish to make comment? All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously, so 2.13 is now separate. Do we do that one first?
Up to you, but you'll just want to specify, obviously, in the resolution. So if you want to do that one first, then Councillor McEwen could leave the room and then come back.
And me.
Oh, sorry. It's you, sorry.
So I think if we do the operational plan without it first, so the recommendation will now be that pursuant to section 174 of the Local Government Regulations 2012, Council adopt the operation plan 2020 as what will be the wording for that? Now we're taking that one out. Or do we do that as a third recommendation?
We'll have that third recommendation in with that 2.1.3. This will have to reflect excluding.
Excluding two. So
Excluding
recommendation
item
3 will be excluding item 2.1.3. Okay. So that's what we've just...
The first, sorry, through the chair, the first motion will be that that council adopt the operational
Divided.
plan with the exception of 2.1.3, and then the second part will be that we move 2.1.3, and then the third will be that the CEO does the monthly report.
You'll need them as separate resolutions.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, sorry, Brenda, you'll need them as actual
As
separate
separate
resolutions. So, with...
We need another move in second.
So what that needs to be is as you...
So I'm going to move that we now make this resolution 5.1.5 be excluded from that document. Or not? Yes. Okay.
Sorry, guys, do you actually have to have a whole separate thing? I'm just
Yeah,
wondering.
we need to
So
have...
the
we need
first
to
one
have
was
two.
permission to split it, and this resolution is now the new resolution of the operation plan with...
Look, I don't care, you do it, I'll just look at it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's necessary.
You need to have two separate resolutions because you're going to need to leave during one of them. So the first one should be really what the original one was, excluding 2.1.3, and all of the additional clauses around quarterly reports and CEO finalizing details. And do you need to have, as a third point, do you need to have the CEO finalize details as per section 257?
Yes, yes.
There's probably wording about that normally that the CEO finalize all details as per section
257.
257.
CEO's delegate.
Yeah, delegates authority to the CEO to finalize all the details
Okay.
in accordance with section 257.
So if I can have a mover for this motion, please. Councillor McEwen, and Councillor Scomerson has seconded. Councillor McEwen, would you like to speak to this motion now of the operational plan with everything but 2.1.3? Yes.
About the
We're
operational.
doing an operational plan first, mate.
So yes.
Okay. Well, this is my first operational plan. Very interesting exercise. We reviewed it a few times. Whilst I'm happy with it, you know, there are things that were excluded that I was looking forward to, but I think it's a good plan. I think it provides a lot of good development for the area, a lot of work for the council, and people will see a lot of improvement in the Shire with this plan. So I'm happy to support it.
Thank you, Councillor McEwen. Anyone wish to speak against the plan, please? Councillor Nolly?
I've a lot of comments, and I'll just say to start off with that I have actually forwarded these comments in quite previous to this, so it's not the first time. It will take a long time for me to go through them, so just be prepared for that. But I think because it's such an important aspect to council business, we need to look at them all. I'll go through them in numerical order, my comments. So the first comment I have is on 1.1.3, contemporary housing solutions for the retirement market. I don't agree that this necessarily should be in there at all. First and foremost, it is not council business. This is private enterprise and not an expense nor a concern that local governments should be considering. Private enterprise fill this space. They research the market as to what is feasible, sustainable and profitable. Secondly, the word in there that says the sentence description, potential sale of council land for revenue scares me. What does that mean? It's way too broad. I don't like to see something like that in an operational plan. If, as a Shire, as a council, we want to encourage people to come into the Shire, you actually do not want to, the age bracket you're looking at encouraging are the families. It's the families that if you attract to come into a Shire, they spend the money. You know, if they've got young kids or teenage kids, they spend more money on groceries, petrol, clubs, association, charities, food, etc., etc. And they will actually then bring their parents and grandparents into the Shire. So if you attract families into a Shire, this is what makes a Shire profitable and growing and vibrant. I'm sure we've all heard of those $1 properties or $100 properties where Shires try to attract young families in there by offering very, very cheap properties for sale. They have the right idea. So trying to sell me the idea that a retirement village will actually attract profit for the Shire, I'm not having any part of that. Next one, 1.2.2, Port Douglas Pool. So I don't know if that refers specifically to the QT pool. If it does, I think we just carry out the mayoral minute as stated. Don't put that into the operational plan. If it just talks about something else, I don't believe that this is the year for that type of expense. We could have, we can eliminate that and bring the budget down. Next one. Well, the Valley Hula, 1.2.3, we've already spoken about that. 1.3.4, the birthing facility. This is an operational plan initiative that I'm very proud to speak on behalf of, and its importance in this community. I think actually all 4 councillors sitting at this table, well, maybe not quite Councillor McEwen, but had probably born in this hospital. So it's a very important thing that we can try to bring back the birthing facility. So I speak very much in favour of that. 2.1.2, inter-urban transport solution. I have spoken against this in the past and I will continue to speak against this. I think this is money thrown away looking at this type of any kind of research or consultancy or whatever. For me, this year, it's absolutely money thrown away, and we do not need to, with excessive type of financial burdens on the Shire. I would actually also argue that if we go ahead and find out, we pay consultants or whatever to do this investigation, we'll actually find that it's not a sustainable and feasible, economically viable thing for the Shire. And this happened 10 years ago. You know, we've only had an increase of a couple of thousand people since 10 years ago. It didn't work, so. Branch Street, we're leaving. Mossman Botanical Gardens, okay. I support the Mossman Botanical Gardens, have since I have found out about it, but I don't like the wording. And I had sent this wording in a couple of months ago, and it hasn't been changed. And I believe that I need to point out that I think we should change the wording on this. I love the concept of the Botanical Gardens and what it's set out to achieve. I see it quite akin to the cane growers taking destiny in their own hands and trying to be proactive. And I really admire this type of spirit. So please, I understand that. But I think it's important that people understand that. I would like the wording to read, a report is brought to council which details projected expenses that will be incurred by the ratepayers of Douglas to the development of the Mossman Douglas Botanic Gardens. Expenses may include trunk infrastructure, predicted water costs, and loss of revenue through water rates. This is because I've had people of the community come to me and say, Abigail, what's happening to the Botanic Gardens? We like the idea, but we're concerned about what's going to cost me as a ratepayer. And then point 2 would be, while council recognises the Mossman Botanic Gardens is a private enterprise, council will strongly advocate for funding for this project. So we put that in. That was my suggestions. 2.1.6, Daintree Ferry. I think we all know what I believe about that. There will be a thorough consultation. I believe that will come up to bring about the true results of what people want, but I don't think it's I don't believe that's needed in an operational plan. 2.2.1, TPDD, I think you've heard my arguments. I don't believe what has occurred today is the best way forward. 2.2.2, the support of the Chamber of Commerce. Once again, I believe that the processes haven't been correct with the Chamber of Commerce, and it's not necessary to have that in the operational plan. Okay, 2.3.1, the Economic Strategic Review Committee. Right, so we have this initiative that we still don't have the processes that are being followed. Before we start carrying out these good ideas, councillors must be provided with a detailed summary of the outcomes of the Economic Strategic Review Committee Task Force suggestions. This is number 1. Number 2, after report to council and upon council resolution, the ESRC Task Force suggestions are provided to the community for public consultation. Accepted recommendations are implemented. So, as it is in the operational plan, we're just implementing the recommendations that we have not seen. You cannot do that as a councillor. It's not responsible.
Yeah, Abigail, just so you know, you're up to 8 minutes, so.
Yeah, yes, thank you, Mayor. I do appreciate that, but it's very
I'm not
important.
stopping you, I just want you to
Thank you.
speed up.
Okay. Bio precinct 2.3.3. Once again, I think it's a great initiative, and I suggest better wording around that initiative. I think we should acknowledge the Far Northern Women efforts acknowledge them for their efforts to economically diversify. I would like to see that in the operational plan wording, and confirm bio precinct plans, and where and when possible advocate on their behalf. 3.1.1, the microgrid. I am all for environmentally friendly energy solutions for north of the Daintree River. I think it's a really big mistake using specifically the word microgrid, because you narrow your field. For the benefit of what it is, it needs to be more generalised. And I would suggest very simply advocate for environmentally friendly energy solutions in north of the Daintree River. Once again, these are all things I sent in a couple of months ago. So it's not last second I'm giving you this information. Using the word microgrid is the wrong way of going about things. 3.2.1, 83 Cape Tribulation Road. I obviously have spoken against that. I don't believe we need that in the operation plan. It's superfluous. 3.3.2, the reservoir. I don't think we need this. It needs to be removed this year. It is an expense that we don't need on our books this year. I really would like to see our staff hours and financial resources go towards the other goals of the second water intake and connecting the intake between Wineville and the Mossman reticulation. I think we should eliminate that and save any dollars that we possibly can for the ratepayers. At least for this year, that can be something maybe in the future. 4.2.1, the planning scheme. This really scares me. We had a process that took around about 5 years before we voted on the current planning scheme. In the last month or two, all of a sudden I hear about there are problems and we need to relook at the planning scheme. I fear that this means unfettered development, 3 stories and higher, loss of good quality agricultural land, and the downfall of the sugarcane industry in Douglas. I think we need to eliminate that.
Are we nearly there, Councillor Norway? Sorry, we're up to 11 minutes.
Yep, I'm nearly there. And one that I would like to speak very strongly for is the Indigenous Liaison Officer. This has been something that we've spoken about for a couple of years. We've finally been able to tie it all in. I think that's a great initiative. The rest I have no problem with. As in 50-something initiatives, most I'm happy with. They're just those 2 big ones that I needed to talk about again. Thank you.
Thank you for your feedback on it. Any other councillors like to speak on the motions that are?
Oh, thank you, Mayor Kerr. I won't take up much time. I can't support this because some of the initiatives are in it, and most of them I think me and Councillor Holly are on the same page with. I won't go through them all again, but I find it hard to support this operational plan as a whole because of these initiatives. I put this through, we've had discussions about this, so that's all. I won't go through them again.
Thank you. Councillors?
Because we've got some issues with what's on the operational plan, is it worthy for us to go back to a workshop and further discuss it? No? Okay.
Councillor McEwen, did you have anything to say about the operational plan?
Not further this, that, you know, we've gone through, there's some things that, you know, thought would be in there that weren't, but that's the process.
It's a process, and we've gone through it a few times. And as we've worked out at the workshops, there's things in it that we're just not going to all agree on. You know, but it's up to a majority of councillors. If a majority wants it, then it goes through. If the majority don't, then it doesn't. So, I mean, for me personally, you know, each year the Douglas Shire Council puts forward an operational plan that provides the operational focus and direction for the staff and where to take this organisation. This operational plan provides the framework to support the goals of the corporate plan by setting out the specific activities, timelines, budgets and measures, which help to maintain focus, provides transparency as a council as it progresses through the delivery of the operational plan objectives. This year's plan, I believe, shows the essence of what this term of council will be about. As you go through each category, you'll see flavours that have been spoken about and ones that I personally believe will enrich the Shire and assist in our growth mentally, culturally, physically and financially. For me, there are some real highlights, and whilst there's too many to list all of them, I hope that people will actually take the time to download this and have a look at it on our website and have a read through it to see the incredible amount of work that this council does on top of its daily general business and things that will be progressing through this year. I want to thank the CEO and the staff for their assistance in creating this document. I mean, there's a lot of work goes into it. And for me personally, I look forward to seeing some of these initiatives and these projects come to life over the next 12 months. So if there's no other comments, we shall put that to the vote. All those in favour of the operational plan? Councillor McEwen, Councillor Scomerson, Councillor Kerr. All those against? Councillor Nolly, Councillor Zamataro. The motion passes. Now with that, the Deputy Mayor will need to take on the next item, and I shall leave the room whilst it's discussed. I think the CEO might need to help guide Councillor Scomerson through it.
I need to be excused for 1 minute.
So we'll just halt the meeting for a minute then. Right. Do you want to continue?
Well, we've got to know. We'll just wait.
So Councillor Scomerson will run just like any motion. You'll ask for a mover and a seconder, and for and against comments.
I just got to say the first 5.1.1, what it's about first.
Yeah, you can, if you'd like, you can read it out. And
Read all of it out, yep.
if you'd like to, for the sake of people listening to hear it.
Yep.
And then ask for a mover and a seconder.
Councillor Elizabeth, go.
Okay, item 2.1.3, Grant Street Dining Precinct of the Operational Plan 2021. No, would like someone to move that. Councillor McEwen, someone to second it.
I'll second it.
Councillor Nolan. That pursuant to section 174 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council adopt initiatives 2.1.3 Grant Street Dining Precinct of the Operational Plan 2021. 2. Delegate CEO to finalise all details of the Operational Plan 2021 in accordance with section 174 of the Local Government Regulation 2012. And 3. Council requires quarterly updates from the Chief Executive Officer regarding the implementation of the operational plan for the 2021 financial year, including initiative 2.1.3 Grant Street Dining Precinct.
Ask for any for or against comments.
Any for or against comment? Any for comments or against?
Through you, Deputy Mayor. Look, I made this point about the Grant Street Dining Precinct. I think it's, in principle, it's a good idea, but Port Douglas suffers greatly from lack of parking. I think the last thing that Port Douglas needs at the moment is to take out, I forget there's 15 or so parking bays in there, I think, and that's quite a few. And until I requested a traffic study was done before this was put into the operational plan. That's why I'm opposed to it, because we can't lose any more parking in Port Douglas. That's one of the reasons. Thank you.
Any further comments?
I have comments. Yes. Thanks. Yes, I also, in principle, am okay with this, but the wording in that operational plan is way too advanced, because it doesn't talk about consultation. We have to work out the public appetite for this. In principle, it might be fantastic. We don't know. I think I would just be very happy with the wording change. I would suggest we change it to have thorough public consultation to understand the desire of a dining precinct along Grant Street. Information presented to the public during the consultation period would include such things as costs, timelines, different options, disruptions expected, traffic alternatives, parking alternatives. If positively embraced by the community, then develop a concept plan and finalise the detailed design in preparation for construction in the future year. I just think we need to have that as the step. So in principle, it could be fantastic, but I think we need to have that written into there, change the wording around that initiative.
Any further comments?
I'm happy with that.
You're happy with my suggestion? You're happy with the
No, I'm
wording?
happy with your suggestion for the consultation and,
I think so.
yeah.
Would you like me to read it out again? I don't know. Perhaps that's how you'd like to do it, Deputy Mayor. Will I read out my suggestion so you can see it and then we can comment on it?
Yeah, if you'd like to do that
Is that
again.
okay? Brenda? Have thorough public consultation to understand the desire of a dining precinct along Grand Street. Yes, of course. Have thorough public consultation to understand the desire of a dining precinct along Grand Street. Yes. Information presented to the public might, during the consultation period, would include such things as
No pressure.
yeah, we're all looking at you, Brenda. Costs, timelines, perhaps different options of how it can be done, different options, traffic alternatives and parking alternatives.
May I just ask Councillor Nolley for clarification on that, because I'll have to implement this. We've got 2.1.7, which talks about parking solutions as well.
Mhm.
So
You could just say refer to 2.1.7,
Okay.
whatever it is, it might be very
yeah,
easy.
I just wanted to make sure that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And then point 2, I suppose. If positively embraced by the community, then develop a concept plan.
Can I just ask for clarification? How will we determine what positively embraced is? Will we bring it
I
back to council
assume
for
a
a
council
decision?
resolution or something like that.
Okay.
I'd like to add something to that if you don't mind.
Yep.
I think the consultation really needs to be focused on the other businesses in McCrossan Street, how they will suffer if there's a sit-down precinct there, how much their business is going to suffer. I think they'll be concerned about that. That's a big part of the consultation.
Yeah, well, I actually had people like the surf club talk to me about that type of things. But yeah, well, that's part of the consultation, absolutely.
We would ensure that all the community is consulted with in McCrossan Street or through Port Douglas.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
At least.
Concept plan. And finalise the detailed design in preparation for construction in a future year. In preparation for construction in a future year. So that's the last of that initiative wording. Future for a future year or for the future, whatever. So it's very similar to the wording there. It just includes a very definitive public consultation wording. Have thorough public consultation to understand, not to have understood, to understand. To understand the desire of a dining precinct on Grand Street. Yeah. During the consultation I've written information presented to the public during the consultation. Would include such things as presented, indeed, information presented. Okay. I'm happy with that.
Can I ask a question of Ms Holden? I'm a little unclear. Does this remain part of the operational plan? How is that possible?
It will become part of the operational plan because the only thing you're doing here is removing Mayor Kerr from the decision to include it because of the conflict of interest. So if this is voted yes, then it will become part of the plan.
But in that case, I've voted against the operational plan, but I'd support this motion. So how does that work?
It'll.
This amended motion.
Yeah. The operational plan has actually been adopted now. So that has actually been adopted. So you're now adding this on.
Okay.
So I think from a governance perspective, it'll be acceptable into the plan, understanding that you voted against against the plan, but that's now been resolved. That's now the operational plan. Now you're determining whether you can actually add this on to that plan. So even though you've disagreed with the operational plan, that is now the plan of the council. And now you're just determining whether you want to.
So that doesn't rescind my vote.
It doesn't rescind your vote, that's right. That will be recorded as such. It's a really good question, so thank you for asking it.
Okay.
So now you need to put it to the vote.
Now, for raise hands for the motion, amended motion.
So we'll record
That's
very unanimously.
Yes.
Thank you.
One more.
That's all right. Thank you for.
Was, was there a seconder for Councillor Hawley's? Yeah, okay. All right, I'll just get the mayor.
Thank you for your patience.
Very good suggestions, I thought. Pretty good under pressure, Brenda.
They had a close-up with your fingers going.
All right. So that will bring us to me reading the closed session things out. So in the closed session today, we have a judicial matter S275H Local Government Regulation 2012 Port Douglas Sports Complex and Coronation Park Master Plan and